So inevitably every year, at least one person will ask, well, why are we asking people who identify as white to meet here and people who identify as people of color to meet here? And the reason for that is actually pretty simple. It's because
most universities in the Western world are mass producing mental illness at rates we have never seen before. I'm talking Costco level bulk of mental illness masqueraded as progressive ideologies, liberalism, and what we would oftentimes call wokeness, right? So that being said, there's a recent post that I put up where somebody left a profound comment where they were essentially explaining how these individuals who are given over to the woke ideology aren't actually looking for a solution. In more cases than not, what they're looking for is to fulfill a sense of identity, right? Which is something I go into depth as far as a lot of my other content. But what really caught my attention was how they pointed to a story about Evergreen College, which I guess is some extremely liberal college, state, school, whatever it may be, right? We're going to find out in real time. But what they're pointing to is how they tried to produce solutions for these individuals, actually solving the problems that they have grievances about, only to find that the faculty as well as the students only wanted to find other problems. They were never looking for a solution. I'm sure you've dealt with individuals like that in your own life. They just want to complain. They're not actually looking for a way out of their problem, but instead they're looking to gain attention. They're looking to get validation, acceptance. They're looking to get some sense of fulfillment from an inner void or perceived inner void from the external world. And there's no difference when it comes to this woke ideology. They're looking to fulfill a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning from what oftentimes is projected as mental illness or mental retardation. So that being said, we're going to get into the short documentary by YouTube. YouTube has some of the best documentary makers ever. It is an incredible thing to see, right? And these are people working with budgets of maybe a few $1,000s at best. They don't have the multi-million-dollar cameras and things of that nature of National Geographic. So it's incredible. Though this may be comparative to National Geographics when you see the animalistic type of activity taking place on Evergreen's College. So let's get into it. Get yourself some water. Sit back and enjoy it.
I would like Evergreen to continue to be the kind of a college that's going to attract people who really want to get on an intellectual binge, who are looking for jobs, yes, but a place where we develop the mind and develop critical minds, because I think that critical minds can go any place in the world.
Pearl, thank you.
The Evergreen State College is a small liberal arts college.
That freaks me out already. That basically said to me, we're looking to shape your mind as far as to believe what we believe. She even uses the word critical, delving into the quote unquote critical race theory, right? Which is everything is nothing more than a projection of race and intersectionality. Everything is about your external identity markers, etc. So that's interesting how that's the founder of this college using such words. Okay, we're in it now. We're in it. Don't worry. I'm not going to stop every 20 seconds, but definitely caught my attention.
College located in southwestern Washington. Founded in 1967, its doors opening in 1971, it was set up with the express purpose of providing an alternative form of education to the public. Evergreen's experimental form of education did away with letter grades, instead providing students with in-depth feedback through narrative evaluations. Also, Evergreen structures classes around interdisciplinary models, where, for example, 3 teachers from an array of disciplines, such as history, poetry, and biology, can teach a single course that lasts for an entire year, immersing the student in a variety of disciplines and giving them the opportunity and tools to incorporate diverse schools of thought into a cohesive whole. Evergreen quick became known as something of an oddity in Washington state. While its spirit of quirkiness combined with its penchant for social progressivism, political action, and activism, and the occasional riot never quite won it the achievement of the bad boy of Washington colleges, it did certainly become known as the scruffy, somewhat orgiastic, and unbathed mottled sheep of the lot.
This looks like every other university in California. I was raised in the Bay Area, about 18 years in the Bay, and this is giving UC Berkeley. This is giving UC Berkeley. This is giving UC Santa Cruz. This is giving Santa Cruz.
perception, though not unwarranted, was not always entirely fair. Evergreen science and humanities departments, well, they don't have departments, but whatever, have been known to produce individuals keenly suited to graduate programs, these students having gained valuable experience in both independent and group projects. In the spring of 2017, a series of protests, live-streamed by the students, launched Evergreen into the national eye, setting in stark relief the contentions in higher education between academics focused on classical education and those who center education on social justice. These two camps came to dramatic blows when Brett Weinstein, a professor...
So basically, classic education versus mental illness. Got you. I do have to say this. It's incredible to me how a majority of the protests we see take place in or on these multi-million and multi-billion-dollar campuses filled with resources. These are some of the most privileged individuals within society, if you want to look at it at a grand scale, especially at a universal or global scale, right? These individuals have the opportunity to go to university, to college, to whatever it is, however it was funded, whether it was Uncle Sam, who they're going to have to pay back, or Fannie Mae, or if it's us, the taxpayer, if it's the taxpayer, because some cases, especially as far as how Joe Biden has been leaving the office the last month or so, many of us are going to have to pay for some of this dim-wittedness. So it has always interested me. That's the point I've always looked to make, is like the people who are protesting the loudest or yelling the loudest are the ones who have the most amount of privilege. It's almost like the rich white liberal kid who feels so terrible about their wealth, kind of like a Luigi Mangione, right? Raised in a very wealthy family. Grandparents made hundreds of millions of dollars in, ironically enough, in a healthcare business with their nursing homes and the real estate and things of that nature. At least their clientele would have been insurance companies. Very ironic. But, here's a kid born into wealth and is about to get this large inheritance at the end of the grandparents' life. And those end up being the ones who, are doing some of the most radical actions towards the quote unquote system. There's a deep level of shame and almost guilt. There's a guilt complex that comes from having success in a lot of cases. And if you don't deal with it in proper ways, you're going to look for ways to get that gratification from the external world in some way. Being the trust fund kid is not always easy because everybody looks at you like you can't work for nothing or you never did. And so you might end up dyeing your hair purple, blue, and orange and screeching in people's ears.
A professor of evolutionary biology, was protested outside his class by students who accused him of being racist. Their evidence derived from a series of emails he had written to question the methods and suggestions of the college's Equity Council, who had been working hard at the behest of the college president, George Bridges, to redesign the college's function around notions of diversity and equality of outcomes. Brett Weinstein was the first stop in a week-long series of protests, which culminated in students taking over the library and administration building, taking the senior administration hostage, and issuing a list...
Yeah, I told you I'm not going to stop every 20 seconds. If you want to watch this by itself, click the link in the description, but I'm here for it. There's too much here, okay? Number one, the word racism has lost its luster because it has been overused and misused, like a lot of these different words, fascism, etc. It seems that the word racism was used to label this man because he disagreed with something that, I don't know, might have actually helped the college, such as disagreeing with this idea of they wanted to create a program that was going to ensure equity of outcomes. How to break this down in the most simple way. There's no such thing. If you have two people start in the very same place with exact same resources, they're not going to end up in the very same place. You cannot force equity of outcome. You cannot force anybody to have the exact same outcome as another. That is an internal incentive that's going to lead one to aspire, and it's going to lead another to just go along to get along. You cannot force it. That does not work. It never has. Just got to make that very, very clear.
a list of demands just as lengthy as they were self-contradicting. All of this was live-streamed onto the internet, and the aftermath resulted in the college shutting down for several days and moving its graduation ceremony 1 hour north. Since these events, the college has seen a dramatic drop in enrollment and is now often referenced by journalists and public intellectuals whenever similar protests start up on other campuses. I myself graduated from Evergreen 2 weeks after the protests and have worked over the past 2 years to show the public what was going on behind the scenes. And now I'm ready to present to you, in a distilled fashion, everything that I've discovered during this research. The next few videos, which will form, I hope, the capstone of my entire expose, will be based on the events of May 2017. But I will be going forward and backward from there to provide context for what's actually going on, and hopefully to show you guys not only what happened, but possibly what caused what happened to happen. So, without further ado, here's the complete Evergreen.
I'm Abby Maxman, President and CEO.
Abby, we have no time for that today. Not today, sis.
Evergreen story.
Let's get into it.
When did this trouble start for you?
I mean, throughout the year, it was pretty consistent, but it got really bad once I made that Facebook post. I was reading on Facebook, and it said, "Hey, people of color students, we are trying to have a class that's mainly people of color, brown and black, called MediaWorks." And what I did, with the help of a friend, was take the exact same post and just switch the race in it and the class in it, just to show that if you can say this about, this race, why can't you say it about this race? And so we put white instead, and then upload.
Yeah, I saw a post maybe yesterday or 2 days ago, and it was a black chick in a club, and she's like, wide-eyed, and she turns her phone, and there's a section which says white biatches only. And it cracked me the hell up. And of course the comment section is going crazy. And I said to myself, now you all know good and damn well that there are black only sections in universities. There are black only sections in, different corporations. I went to school in high school. We had just an AASU, African American Student Union, blacks only. So to pretend like this hasn't been a thing, it's just, again, it's only when it's obviously targeted towards one group of people and not the other. The one who's considered as the marginalized or considered as the oppressed. Who gets to decide that? The group who's looking to have and assert that power. It's as simple as that. Oh, here's, this is the trans spaces. Okay, this is the straight spaces. How dare you?
Said, and then uploaded it, and then 300 something comments later that the entire school was not happy. I had people saying that I was a fragile white boy, and then I had others saying that I was a person of color that just wants to be white, and I don't act like people of color should. And then there was one event when I was in the greenery, and someone came up, stuck the hands on the table, got like this far from my face, and started yelling at me. And they were asking, "Are you going to stop being disrespectful?" And I asked, and I said, "Well, what do you mean by disrespectful?" And their response was, "Are you going to stop being disrespectful?" And I'm like, "I need you to tell me what you mean by that." And they were yelling. I was calm throughout the entire thing. And when they wouldn't respond, I'm like, then no, I won't stop being disrespectful because you won't answer. I went to the police after that, though.
What did you do there?
I just told them the events that happened, and I said, this was the person who was yelling at me, this is what was happening. And then what happened after was the other students were called in. This was after we left, and they had to go in and, give their confessions. Mm-hmm. And they like to say they were detained, but on one of the students' Facebook page, there's a video of what happened there, and at no point was there any detainment. It was a group of what looked like 30 students inside of police services hanging out, and
There's always certain looks to these people. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's a very specific profile of individual. Now, of course, some of them make themselves out to be that way. They're signaling to the world their mental illness, but I don't want to get into the predisposition conversation. I do understand that this is, heavily programming, but there are some of these individuals who you can see from afar, from a distance, and you can see it on them. There's a certain look of That's the word I'm looking for. Retardation?
The students that supposedly was detained and wasn't allowed to use the restroom or leave was walking freely about in the lobby, just chatting it up with people.
So yeah, to pretty much sum that up, a person of color felt threatened by other people of color, made a complaint, and it turned into one of the biggest reasons to start this big movement.
I think it was around the next week when there was meetings where students got together. It started out with discussions about what are the problems that people have on campus, and then how can we really qualify which claims are just emotional and which claims are really going on so that we can figure out what issues we can specifically target. There was another meeting where Keave came in. He had some written statement about collectivism that I wish I could have heard, but students didn't want to hear it. And he was basically told to leave after a few words were spoken.
And then there was an email that came out from Wendy that invited people to go to this meeting to discuss what happened through Facebook. So I decided to go because I wanted to see if it had anything to do with Brett.
This isn't directed at any professors or anything?
Well, there's some staff and faculty who have also, like, done and said anti-black things, like the whole email chain with Brett, the science faculty.
Have you read it yourself? Are you sure that's what it
I've read
said?
excerpts of it because my class is actually making a documentary that has that in it.
Who's your professor?
Naima.
I have a phrase called Black Girl in the Wilderness, right? Sort of to describe this profound isolation we feel as these sort of unruly.
Why was I expecting anything less when I heard that there is a teacher who is allegedly creating a documentary about a Facebook post that they didn't like because somebody showed them their own level of hypocrisy? Why did I expect anything besides Rasputia, besides Precious? Why? Why? And that's an insult to you. I'm so sorry, Precious. Rasputia, you can get it because you're basically just Eddie Murphy in drag. But, oh my God. Let's hear what this one has to say. Oh man, offended by everything, ashamed of absolutely nothing. Sheesh.
Loudmouth women with like the wrong hair and a lot of attitude, and a rabid dedication in our work towards education as an actually liberatory practice.
Day of Absence, Day of Presence is about discussing issues around inclusivity, around equity, around gender diversity, around sexual diversity, around religious diversity. So inevitably every year, at least one person will ask, well, why are we asking people who identify as white to meet here and people who identify as people of color to meet here? And the reason for that is actually pretty simple. It's because people of color and white people...
It's because we're racist. That's why. That's why they're doing it. Simple. You can create any sort of vernacular and verbals all around the point, but in reality, it's for one reason and one reason only. Y'all are racist and you get to get away with it. You are protected by the hierarchical system that you manufactured along with your fellow bullies who have been bullying the rest of the world to buy into this nonsense. And mind y'all, this is like, actually, how long ago was this? Because the initial story, this is 5 years ago. This is 5 years ago, folks. This is 5 years ago. Now, y'all know that this woke ideology, I mean, it's been pressing for quite a while. Occupy Wall Street was like the very inkling of it. And then, Obama era kicks in. And all of a sudden we have the racial war starting all over again. And they tried to say it was the white people who didn't want him in, even though he had a disproportionate amount of white folks who voted him in. But actually, he was the one who was pushing propaganda and creating a divisive sentiment, but I digress. This has been going on for quite a while now. So to think that this is 5 years ago and we see where we've gotten to at this point, this is why I continue to speak out, and I will never shut my mouth until we completely, absolutely eradicate or at least put the label necessary on this woke mindset, calling it what it is: mental illness. Simple as that. It's not something that must be promoted, egged on. It's not something that must even be sympathized with. It's something that has to be put in its rightful place, which is to be treated as exactly what it is: mental illness. Simple. No, the boy's not a girl, the girl's not a boy. Okay? That perception is called mental illness, and that's what needs to be treated.
Color and white people experience racism differently, and they're really different conversations.
We are having we are having people of color stay on campus, and we are encouraging white staff, faculty, and students to go off campus in order to make the space at Evergreen more centered around people of color.
Throughout the years, they have never encouraged a race to leave. It's always been voluntary. And then on top of that, socially, it was not voluntary. Because if you chose not to leave or you chose to abstain from the event, you were called a racist and then, insulted just like.
It's easier than ever to get heard and get paid on SoundCloud. Simply upload
Not now, SoundCloud. Not now.
Was it an ask or a tell? Because I think that's
Let's
important.
be
distinction.
very careful about this.
Yeah.
There was no implication that white people would not be allowed on campus.
Okay.
There was, however, the implication, when this finally was described, the implication was that white allies would be off campus. And therefore, there was the implication that if you were white and you showed up on campus, that you were therefore not an ally. And that is the thing that pushed me to respond. And what I said was, there is all the difference in the world between a population absenting themselves from a shared space and a population telling another population to go away.
Mm-hmm.
And my point was, speech has to be free on a college campus, and that everybody has to be free to.
I just realized that this is Eric Weinstein's brother. Y'all need to look into Eric. Okay, birds of a feather. I wonder, how did you... Maybe this is his great awakening. Maybe this is what happened to him, because his brother speaks out about this this woke ideology, and he even gets the nitties of the gritties when it comes to some of the deep state tactics. But wow, that makes a lot of sense, because this guy looked familiar. I thought to myself, surely he has a voice and a platform at this point in time, and sure enough, he does. But yeah, this thing of the implicit aspect as far as look, they bully you into it. You're canceled if not. And frankly, we're at a place right now, we don't care anymore, right? You're a racist you all the way until you tuck your tail and you run off. When you don't buy into it, they're going to ratchet it up. They're going to do everything necessary, which is a force. That's them forcing you off of their campus. Simple.
To be there. I thought that the point was so clear that it couldn't really be missed. And I was shocked at how far off the mark the response was.
And then after that, there was a meeting about trying to figure out what the next steps were going to be. There was one student that stood up during the meeting and said that all the things that are going on campus are not amounting to anything, and that things had to start changing quicker. And so they told the room that they were going to go start a do shit committee, and that was going to be in the other room. And anybody that wanted to do shit could join the do shit committee. That's when students brought up Weinstein's name. And then, in sort of just a moment's decision, they decided to protest Weinstein's class the next day.
So Monday happens, and I'm in class, and I've definitely got a lot of anxiety. I'm just like, whoo, oh God, like this could break out at any moment. People are starting to get really weird at our school. Monday happened and everything was fine. I was like, okay, maybe it's all in my head. Everything's fine. And then Tuesday hit, and we get split up between different floors to do a activity.
And my group happened to be the largest, and we were on the third floor.
And I had stayed in the classroom because there was one group meeting there. And then...
What were you talking about?
We were actually talking about defining words. So we were talking about what we were talking about, or making sure that we knew what we were saying.
At that moment, a group came in and they lined up against the front of the room and they just stared at us.
I would want my money back if I was a student. I would want a reimbursement. There's no way you just wasted my time and my money. I want interest on my money. You have wasted my time, energy, and attention in defining... This is the policing of the mind. This is 1984. This is Orwellian. You're going to spend the rest of the day observing the words that you're using, and we're going to give you new definitions for them in order to egg on the white guilt we want to develop in you for when we want to exploit that white guilt to get a check. BLM style.
I start seeing students coming in with flyers, and they're asking for where bread is. And my heart dropped. I was like immediately like, oh my gosh, it's happening.
This kid that I knew came in the room and handed me this Brett's email, and he told me that Brett was a racist and that I should read the email. And he was like really flustered and like really amped up, and he put them on all of our desks. And the people that I was in the discussion with, we were like, what is this? We had no idea what was going on.
I got up and I started running down the stairs to go find him, and there was a huge group of people coming upstairs. At first I thought I completely ran into somebody, until I kind of realized that they actually like sidestepped and got in front of me on purpose. And I kind of went, oh, I'm sorry. And this person was like, where are you going? What are you doing? Like, why are you leaving so fast? And got really aggressive. And I was like, I'm just going downstairs. I have a bunch of classmates downstairs. I'm going downstairs.
The crowd had cornered Brett into the corner of the hallway and were really crowding in on him.
First, they started trying to shut down my ability to speak, and then they started chanting stuff that was actually literally written on a page for them.
We come here as students against campus racism and against anti-blackness on campus. And we would like to reach out to students of color in the humanities as well as sciences that we are here to support. We want to dismantle anti-blackness campus-wide. We want to give some sense of solidarity and provide.
I can't wait for real life to mollywop every single one of them. Every last one. I can't wait till real life hits. When they gotta pay taxes for the first time. Mind you, these are a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds who have never seen anything real. They've never experienced anything real. They're fighting imaginary dragons. I'm really like, again, I'm not a sadistic dude at all, but sometimes people need the awakening of all awakenings. And a lot of people who come from the left, you only realize how severe the poison, the toxin is once you interface with it, and now it comes to meet you at your door. So now you disagree with just a slight bit of something, and they all turn on you. That's the only point where I've seen some of the most radical of these individuals ever switch. You know, it's like one of Kamala's biggest fundraisers, Lindy Lee is her name. And she is now spewing everything because she realized, like, if you just have one disagreement or even try to correct something, they will attack you. They eat their own. And I can't wait. I can't wait for it. I can't wait till every single one of them goes through that real life experience. The rest of them, they're going to, be 50, 60, 70, 80 and have lived lackluster lives and be bitter and miserable and blame everybody else for, the crappy lives that they had. That's what's going to happen for the rest. But there's going to be an awakening for a group of these individuals, especially the fairer skinned ones, right? When all of a sudden, all of it is going to be projected back onto them.
Solidarity and provide safety and
Will you listen to me? Yeah. Okay. No, not me, please. No,
we're listening. Go!
Okay. I am committed to equity. I'm as committed, I believe, as anyone on this campus. I happen to disagree with other folks on this campus about the way there. Okay? But I'm not an unreasonable person. I'm not uninterested. I'm not uninformed about history. I know the implications of these things. I have arrived where I've arrived from a different route. I've arrived there through academic study. I know why racism happens.
We live racism. We don't have to study it to understand it. We live it.
And the issue is you think scientific proves everything. What about all the racist scientific theories they had about black people?
They live privilege, offended by everything, ashamed of nothing. There's a certain demographic, a very specific demographic, and it speaks for itself. Always and forever miserable and angry. And if the shoe fits, wear it. That's why I'm mad with it. Like, somebody try to come out. They say, why do you speak bad about these people? I said, when did I do that? I said, well, I speak sometimes in a general term, but if the shoe fits, sis, twin, wear it. It's yours. Cinderella style.
Explain that. No. It is not your place. You're going to listen.
You asked me a question. I would like to answer.
Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Red, white, tears, got to go! Hey, hey! Ho, ho! Red, white, tears, got to go!
And in class,
They're infantile, they're adolescent, they're children, they're baby, they're coddled, and they are repulsive. And these individuals are going to have a hell of a reality check when real life comes to check your chin check. That's what it's going to be. I was going to say, pull your coat. No, it's going to be a chin check. It's going to be one of those. Real life is going to hit in that way. Sometimes I wish that we did have an opportunity to separate, let's say, these comment section communists, social media socialists, and, the rest of us, just regular Westerners or American folk, or whatever it may be, right? Or even just people on a global scale. Give them their own land so they can run it in this utopian way that they believe, right? Oh, that's right. It already happened. It's called Blue Sky, and it's already failing. Because these people cannot help but eat their own. They are power hungry. All they care about is for them to be seen, them to be heard. It's all a selfish ruse. They act as if they're in these groups. Watch them turn on themselves. Watch them consume one another when they're finally not getting their own way from the other. Remember when, as a black man, you were part of the fold, but if you disagree, now you're out of the fold, right? As a Hispanic, Latinx, they gave you your own name. You're in the fold. You're POC. You disagree a little bit. You're out of the fold. Now even gay folks, everybody, alphabet folks are getting it too. From the alphabet folk who have this ridiculous agenda. There's alphabet peoples who are, yes, I'm going to call them alphabet peoples because that's what they chose to be. There are those who are part of the alphabet community or were who say, you know what, let's not mutilate children. Let's adults can make that decision. Those people got turned on. How dare you, you homophobe, you transphobe, you bigot. But that's where we're at with it, folks. That's where we're at.
Hey, hey, ho, ho. Red, white, team, hey, ho, ho. Red, white, team,
And in class, we had talked a lot about when someone is the target of a witch hunt, they're put into this cartoon form. And then that is the narrative that they build up of this person. It doesn't matter anymore who they are or what they are, but this cartoon is used to the advantage of whoever is hunting the witches. And it's basically more of a strategic move than anything about this person. So Brett was trying to reason with the students and let them know that he wasn't this cartoon that maybe they had been taught he was, and kind of, just explain himself. And they weren't having it at all.
Debate means you are trying to win. Dialectic means you are using disagreement to discover what is true. I am not interested in debate. I am interested.
They're not interested in anything besides whining, complaining, and blaming, and I can't wait for them to get their just due. Simple as that. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Till the next time. Peace.
I used to be afraid of the dark, a place unknown like a heart in their heart. I used to see my life in the bar. Now the kids unchained, every shackle is lost. 2 steps in the moonlight, 2 step in the daytime. You just know when it feel right. You got a feeling the time's not. See you through those shades that I just threw on. Through my lenses, you just can't do no wrong. I fell in love with myself again. I fell in love with myself. I fell in love with the sunshine. I fell in love with the light. I fell in love with the full moon. I fell in love with the night.